Okay, so please guys turn your cameras on, Melissa and Natalia, so we can start with the class. Okay, there you are, Melissa. And words. Okay, so here we are. The speaking section. So we have already covered the listening last week. So today we're going to be starting with the speaking section already. And actually, we're going to be taking a bit more for the speaking because it's a longer section. What can I say? This whole week is going to be all about the first task for the speaking section. Next week, we're going to be looking at question 2 and 3. And then we're going to take half a week more to see question 4 and then the writing. But yeah, so it's a bit of a long section, but it's also pretty fun, in some ways. So let's see. Okay, so as I was saying, in the speaking section, we got 4 tasks. So right now we have 4 tasks. It used to be that you got 6 tasks, but it's not like that anymore. I think that starting August 2019, if I'm not wrong, I think that they have changed the TOEFL and it's no longer 6 tasks, but now you got only 4. So I think those were pretty good news. It's, I don't know, a lot more accessible and more relevant, to be honest. So out of these 4 questions, I think that's important to know as well, only the first one is independent, and the other ones are all integrative questions. And if you are wondering what that means, well, independent basically means that you don't have to do anything before you answer the question. So you don't have to read or listen to anything before you can answer the question. There's no additional material other than the question and your response, However, integrated means the exact opposite, right? So when you have integrated tasks that you're also going to be seeing in the writing, it means that, well, it means 2 things. First, that you're going to be asked to work with other material that they are going to be providing, like texts or audios. And second, that it's also, it's not only about the speaking. You may be tempted to think that a speaking section means that you just have to have a good, good speaking skills, good English level, and you're done. So not really, because you still need some, to basically understand what they give you, especially in the integrated tasks. So they're also going to be looking at other things like comprehensional skills. So this is like evaluating your integrated skills. That's why it's integrated. So, but don't worry though, because we're gonna see that in depth when we get there. So far today, we will start with the first one. Okay. Any questions so far about the 4 tasks? I mean, we're not looking at them yet, but I don't know. Okay, then. So I think this is important as well. You may be wondering how the speaking section is scored, or under what criteria do you score these? Remember, this is not like the reading or the listening, where you have your, either a right or wrong answer. So you either get the point or not. So it's a bit hard to exactly know how they are going to be evaluating your responses. But according to the ETS, according to the TOEFL, we have some rubrics that we may want to cover, with your response. So ideally, a 30 score speaking section would have all these things. So the first thing that they want is fluency. Of course, this is the speaking. So they are going to be looking at how fluent you are. And, fluency, that's a really ambiguous concept. But in this case, it means, the speed at which you speak. It doesn't have to be, I'm not saying that you need to speak oh, super fast. Not that really, but at a normal speed, um, it means that, or, it's about whether you make or not some pauses, and, how long those pauses are. So if you think so much, everything that you're going to say, that you're saying, and you're making a lot of pauses there, then, it means that you're not so fluent yet. If you use so many filler words are okay. And actually, now that we're here, I have a tip for you. So filler words are basically those words like words or sounds, filler sounds could be. So words like I mean, or or I don't know, or even the sounds like or you know. So some tips I could give you for these filler words is try to practice and try to get used to using filler words that like an American would use. So it's okay to have an accent and everything, but it's gonna make your response sound more natural if you have, like, instead of saying for instance, that will be the equivalent for in English. So in English, people used to do that sound, right? Like when they're thinking, they're like so you could do that instead of saying like you would do in Spanish. So yeah, that's a tip that I'm gonna give you right now. What else? Whether you repeat too much what you're saying, whether you're struggling with some words, um, pronunciation also matters. And as I was saying, it's okay to have an accent. You don't really have to pronounce the words exactly as like a native would do it. However, the important thing is that they understand what you're saying. That you speak clear, and that they know the words that you're articulating. So try to articulate the words as the best you can. Try to have a good stress, like make it a bit more exaggerated, a bit more pronounced, I would say. Also, the rhythm that you keep, whether you're keeping a linear rhythm and you're not like, I don't know, like speaking too fast for a while and then too slow. I don't know. What else? Vocabulary. That's a really hard one, I would say. But it's also good to work on that. Vocabulary basically means whether you have an extensive range of, of vocabulary, basically. So if you're not repeating the same word all over again, that's why we need variety. And I'm going to be giving you some tips for that. So for instance, if you're constantly saying, I think, which is a very common thing to say in this response, then they're going to see that you don't have such, extensive vocabulary. You want to maybe consider changing words like I consider, I reckon, or things like that. I'm going to give you some phrases for that. And also these words like because and but, which you could for sure replace. Another thing regarding vocabulary, it's not only vocabulary, but also word choice. And word choice means, how appropriate the words that you're choosing are. Now, I have a document for you guys with some words that you may find helpful for these tests, because it really matters. If I say something like, if my I don't know, okay, if the question is related to college, and instead of saying I don't know, what can we say? Like instead of saying professor, I say teacher, right? And I'm talking about college, not the school, So that would count as word choice. So it's good to have some vocabulary beforehand. And I'm gonna be telling you what topics you could sorry, what topics you could check out, Because the good thing is that there are some specific topics for these tasks. So you don't really have to have you don't have to be a dictionary, but you can check out some specific words for this task. What else? Coherence and logic. So as I was saying, it's not just grammar and speaking, but what you say needs to make sense. So if they ask you something about college again, and you go off topic and start talking about relationships, so it's not going to be coherent. You're not going to be answering the question directly, and it's not logical. So of course, you're going to have a problem there. But if not, then, you're fine. Try to keep it casual, because they are also looking for that. So it shouldn't be like that, to be honest. But, there's one thing that I always say, which is, you have the speaking and the writing. So a lot of people think that in the speaking, you need to be, or in both, you need to be so sophisticated and sound like a robot, basically, have the perfect words for each thing, and have, like, I don't know, don't use any idiomatic expressions or things like that. So it's not really like that. I would say that the speaking section is a bit more flexible. You can even make some grammar mistakes, so don't overstress, don't try to make it so perfect. It's just, it has to be natural, like you were speaking to a friend in a conversation. So it's perfectly fine if you make some mistakes or everything. Just, try to keep it natural. What else? And the final one is topic development, which basically means how you structure your response or how you organize your ideas. So this really makes a difference. You're gonna see it makes, like, I would say that topic development is like 50% of it all. So, and the good thing, the bright side, is that everything you need to do to cover these criteria is follow the structure of the template that I will give you. So as long as you follow that structure of the template that I'm going to be giving you guys, you're going to be more than fine with this. It's practice, really, but you also got to keep that structure that I will give you. So those are some things. I mean, the most important things that you want to consider, that they're going to be evaluating you on. So any questions now so far? Okay, that's good. So then let's start with the independent question. So I know that some of you guys already know how this is, how this works and what you need to do here. And maybe you already have a good idea of, how this is because of the speaking sessions. Some of you haven't started them yet. But anyhow, we're going to try to analyze it a bit more in detailed way. So for this question, they ask you about familiar topics. Maybe we could even say controversial topics. So it's usually about things that you could debate on. Like maybe, it's always about choosing. Okay, let's get there first. So basically what they ask you to do is to choose between a bunch of options. So they're like, do you prefer this or that? Do you prefer to run or to walk? Or do you think that the government should do this or shouldn't do that? Or do you think that this is appropriate or not? Or do you think that people should do that or not? So it's always about, your preference or your opinion about something involving two or more options, or it could be like 3 or 4, which of the following do you think is better in a friend? And you could have something like honesty, trust, and I don't know, a bunch of options there. It's always about choosing. But of course, it's about things that you could have a discussion, So some common topics include work, work decisions, education in general, usually college, but sometimes some high school things as well, or school things as well. It's about also, okay, how can we put this? I don't know, like workout or health. Yes, health, that would be. So it's about health sometimes, like working out or eating, I don't know, or food. So yeah, I've seen some topics like that. It's about, sometimes you have some more complex topics like environment. So, controversial topics. I've seen ones that were I've seen one question that was on euthanasia. So sometimes you have a bit more complex topics, but that's not usually the case. Or business decisions as well. That's some pretty basic stuff, you know, and they're not going to be asking about big things like, so yeah, things that you could discuss with a friend. And regarding the time, you get 15 seconds only to prepare your response. And after those 15 seconds, you have 45 seconds to speak. So it's important to know that if you go over the time, they won't record anything that you say, you know? So you need to really practice and get used to the idea of speaking in 45 seconds and providing your response, because everything that you say outside those 45 seconds is out of the picture, you know, it's not even in consideration. They literally don't record anything else. So, but you know, it's just that you practice. And you also need to start like at the moment they say that you can start. I think that it goes something like, all right, yeah, you have 45 seconds to deliver your response. You can start speaking after the beep. And then you have a beep and then you start speaking. So it's important that you start, you know, right after the beep and that you end when the time is over. You guys are gonna be able to look at the timer there on your screen so you can organize your time better and see when you're getting there so that you can start finishing off. So yeah. Any questions now about the structure of this task? Okay. So the last thing before we look at an example, and I'll give you some more tips, like some general things I could say. First of all, you don't have to be honest. You know, a lot of people make that mistake as well. Since this is like a very personal question, remember that they're not really judging, you know, they're not evaluating your beliefs or how good you are as a person or what you think of or what you believe in, or, you know, nothing really. They don't care what your response is as long as, you know, you're explaining it and justifying it. And of course that, you know, you have what they need. So don't overstress. Some people have asked me, so what do I do if I have, you know, if I don't have a mind on it, if I don't prefer anything, what am I supposed to do? So just fake it, you know, make something up. All right, now that we're here, try to choose the one that's easier to talk about, the one that you can think of better, stronger arguments. Sometimes we can think of arguments that are not really that strong. You know, if you have something like, do you think that we should tell lies? And you say no because of religion. So it's really hard to talk about things like that, you know, like religion or morals or you know what I mean. So try to always go for the ones that you can have stronger arguments about. What else? And another thing, since you're choosing, make sure that you have a strong position, a strong mind about it. So if they say, do you prefer to drink water or soda? Or do you think that drinking water is better than drinking soda? Or do you agree or disagree with the statement that soda is better than water? So it doesn't really matter the type of question you get. Always try to go for one and justify it. Try not to compare and contrast. So don't tell me like, well, I think that soda has its advantages, but water is also real good. You know, it's good for your health. But again, soda tastes better. So try not to do that. Try to have a really strong mind. So tell me, well, I think that water is 100% better than soda. And then you tell me why, you know, since it's better for your health. So always try to do that. Don't compare and contrast unless, of course, the question says so. You know, if the question is like, compare drinking soda versus drinking water, then in that case, you can do that, you know, but believe me, that would be so rare. I have never seen a question like that. I have seen one, but not here in the writing. So I don't think that's going to happen, you know? So no matter what type of question you get, if you have something like, what is your opinion? Or what do you think about this? Even if it's an open one, always try to choose one and explain just that one, and that's because it's easier. You're going to be able to keep the structure, you're going to sound a lot more confident, and yeah, so try to choose one always. Try to make it personal. Sometimes you're going to have questions that are like general questions like do you think that people who I don't know who there was one. Do you think that people who don't wear a mask during a pandemic should go to jail, perhaps? So try to make it personal. It's about those people, but try to tell me about you. So you can say something like, yeah, I think that everyone who does something like that should go to jail because it's attempting against our lives. For instance, I have a friend, and then you're making it personal. You're saying that was recently infected because of, I don't know, because he was using public transport and he got infected there because someone wasn't wearing a mask. So make it personal. That's my advice. Even if it's a general one. You don't need to talk in third person, like I don't know. How would this be? Like people who do this prefer that, and like in third person. Try to always talk in first or second person. Like I prefer this because it's better for me and it works for me and so on. Or you, like when you have to do that, then you can do this. I don't know. So you're gonna see what I mean in a bit. I know that it's confusing right now, or you're gonna see what I mean with making it personal. And also try to be specific, especially when you're giving examples. And actually, some of the questions are like that, provide specific details to support your explanation. So believe me, they want you to be specific and detailed in your response. So if you're making up an example, then don't hesitate to add names or dates or things like that. If you're telling me, so I have this uncle, you can tell me his name. You can say, so my uncle Tom thinks this and did that. And he was taking, instead of saying he was taking a course, you could say he was taking a biology course. So try to make it specific. Don't worry if it's not that long. It's okay if your response is like 35 to 40 seconds. It's perfectly fine, you could add a conclusion at the end, but it doesn't really have to be that long. What else? Practice and practice. Practice makes perfect. And when you practice, try to record your responses. Don't just practice and forget about it. Practice and analyze what you're doing wrong, what you could improve on. You gotta be an active student. What else? Don't use phrases. Try not to use phrases or words that you know you have a problem with. So I know that there are some words that are difficult to pronounce or things like that. So try to avoid using those words. And sound confident. That's another thing that makes your response better. It levels it up. So instead of, sounding like you were asking questions like, so I prefer to drink water since I think it's better for your health. So if you're asking like that, it makes you sound less confident. Try to just say, I prefer to drink soda or I prefer to drink water since it's better for your health. So I'm eliminating that I think, and I'm changing the tone of my voice. So try to do that. Try to make everything look like there were facts. Try to also make it sound like you're passionate about the topic, like you're really excited to talk about it. And, it's okay to exaggerate a bit. So yeah. Okay, so I know that I have been speaking for a lot now, but is it all good so far? Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes, and what will happen if I haven't finished it yet, but time's up.
Okay, so nothing will happen really. They're just not gonna record that part of your response. They're not gonna take points off. It's not really gonna affect your score as long as you have already answered the question. So as long as you have provided a reason why you think so, like if you have stated what your preference is, what you think about this, you have at least given one reason, preferably one example as well, then it's everything okay. But if you have not answered the question yet, then there's nothing to do really. You're gonna move on to the next task and you cannot really do anything about it. So, but if you always try not to go over the time. The good thing, as I was saying, is that you have the timer there. So look at the timer, you're gonna realize that once you practice, you're gonna be able to realize, how long you should speak for. Or maybe you're gonna be like, okay, so I usually give like one long sentence at the beginning, and then my example is like 2 sentences, and it's gonna come naturally to you. But yeah, like if you go over like 5 seconds, then that's okay, no problem. But if you really haven't said anything relevant in those 45 seconds at the beginning, then yeah, it's a problem. But otherwise, it's not that big of a deal, really.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, no worries. Now let's look at an example. That's the best way. So can anybody read this question for me?
Okay, I will. Some people like to go to bed early at around 9 p.m., while other people prefer to stay up late. What do you prefer? Provide specific details to support your explanation.
Okay, great. So, okay, so as you can see, this is usually the type of question you get. Obviously, there are other types, like do you agree or disagree that it's better to go to sleep early? Or things like that, but it's always about choosing. So they're asking what you prefer out of 2 options, and you just need to select one of them and justify. So let's try to do that. Okay, so to answer the question, these are the things that you need to have or need to do. So the first thing is obviously decide what your position is going to be. Okay, let's do that somewhere else. So you need to make up your mind and choose one. So what do you guys think it's easier to talk about? Going to bed early or staying up late? Which one will you choose?
I think going to bed early.
Okay, going to bed early. All right. So of course you don't have to, 15 seconds when you're preparing. Those 15 seconds are gonna fly, you're not gonna even realize the time was up. So when you're preparing, what I would suggest you do is just reread the question maybe, because believe me, it has happened that sometimes you get harder questions that are not so easy to understand. In that case, you can reread it and also try to think of the argument. That's the only thing that you really want to focus on when you're those 15 seconds. Don't worry about the example yet. So try to think of one argument that you're going to be providing. And yeah, just like one argument maybe. And that's what you're going to tell me now. And another tip I could give you right now, when you're practicing, try to practice without those 15 seconds. So you read this is when you're practicing, not when you're in a test. In that case, you're going to have those 15 seconds. But when you're practicing on your own, try to forget about the 15 seconds and try to answer the question right off. So you read it and then you answer it, because you need to get used to the idea of improvising, because you cannot really prepare your entire response in 15 seconds. So try to do that, and it's going to help you get used to it. Okay, so going to bed early. Now, can anybody tell me why? What would one reason be for this? Why is going to bed early better?
is better for your health.
Okay, health. That's a really good argument. It's better for your health. Okay. All right. Now, regarding the number of arguments or reasons that you should give. So, whenever you look at one question, none of them is going to say something like, please provide 2 reasons and 2 examples to support your explanation. Never. So you don't have a requirement. You don't have something that says the number of that like specifies the number of arguments that you need to give. So take advantage of that. My advice is, like, if I were you, I would just go for 1 argument and 1 example, because that way I can elaborate a bit more. I can take my time. I'm not going to be so rushed, and it also gives a good or a better structure. However, it depends, really. I cannot tell you what's going to work for you, but we're gonna practice here. You're gonna practice tomorrow, and also next class you're gonna practice with me as well. And we're gonna figure out what could work for you. So for now, let's try to just, to see how it would be, go with 2 arguments. So can we think of another argument or another reason why going to bed is better early? Why going to bed early is better?
You will arrive at your work on time.
Okay. Arrive work on time. So basically you won't oversleep. The next morning you can wake up earlier and you can arrive at work on time. You're not gonna be late. Okay, good argument. Now, the next thing you need to do, guys, is think of examples. Now, for some of you, I think you already know how to do this, like think of examples, the ones that were in the writing part, but let's just quickly recap. So when giving examples, you have 3 options, remember? You could give personal examples, like telling a story from your own experience, something that happened to you, which is usually a story, obviously related to this and supporting your argument. So you could say, for instance, there was this time when I went to bed, when I stayed up until, 12 a.m. And the next morning I overslept my alarm. I didn't even hear the alarm. So I overslept and I didn't arrive at work on time. So that would be like a story that I'm just making up, and that's a personal example. Now, some of you may know that for the writing, for instance, I've said that this is the best thing you can do. In the writing, you're gonna see that it's like the best shot that you have. And you're probably gonna be better off if you use different tenses, like in the past, maybe, so that it adds variety to your response. So there was this time when I did that, and maybe I could use the present perfect. So ever since I have been, going to bed early. So that's okay, but to be honest, I think that here in the speaking, your goal is to make it as simpler as it could be, So I wouldn't really mess it, I wouldn't try to make it so complex and use different tenses. I can just work perfectly fine with a simple present. I could say, so right now I need to go to work at 7 a.m. So I need to really wake up real early. So the only way that I'm able to do that is by going to bed early, So that way I arrive at work on time. And I'm using just the simple present. It's a story still, but it's in the present. So I will try to do that because it's really easy to make mistakes, grammar mistakes when we use different tenses. So I would try to give examples in the simple present. Of course, that if you're 100% confident with your grammar and your knowledge of tenses and everything, and you feel, sure and confident, then you can give examples in the past, and that's perfect as well. But, the simpler, the better. So, okay, stories. All right. Now you could also give general examples if you're not so good at making up stories. And you could just basically repeat the same thing, but try to make it a bit more specific. You could use the second person, like, all right, let me give you an example. Usually conditionals. So you could say something like, if you have to, I don't know, if you work in the morning and you need to wake up early to go to work, then you better go to bed early so that you can arrive at work on time. So I'm just repeating what my argument was, but I'm making a bit more specific. I'm saying, if you have to go to work early, like at 6 a.m., and you need to make sure you have a good rest because you need energy for work. So I'm just making stuff up, as I go, but it's an example, so it counts. Okay, and the last thing that you can do, which works as a complement, additional thing, is making a fax, which is basically like, all right, like, how do I put this? So for instance, okay, with an example, I could say, it's been proven that going to bed early makes you, makes your brain work 20% better the next morning, or that going to bed early makes you more productive. Yeah, more productive, the next morning. So I'm just making it up, and I could even say, I read in this magazine that it's better for your health. So you could make something up there, and it doesn't have to be true at all. You don't have to have the knowledge to do that. You can just make it up. They're not going to check or look into it. They don't really care if it's true or not. So you can make anything you want up, So that would be like facts. So is that okay? Any questions now? Okay. So now I want you guys to give me some examples. What would you say for health? Who can give me an example for that?
Doctors say that if you stay up late, you'll tend to gain weight.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, I really like it. So this is a fact, and perfectly. So doctors say that staying up late makes you gain weight. Great, it's a fact. You could also, change, like, just to, to give examples for the other types of examples, you could also turn this into a personal one. You could say, so when I was younger, I used to stay up so late and I gained a lot of weight because of this. Or you could say, when you stay up late, then you tend to gain weight. So great. I love your example. All right, and I want one more. Who can give me an example for this one? Arriving at work on time.
Last year, I used to stay up until late, and I always was late for work.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see, giving examples is kind of easier, than thinking of arguments, because you're just making it a bit more specific. You say you can wake up early, and then you just basically add an I to it, you make it personal. So I myself experienced this. I used to arrive so late at work because I was staying up late. Perfect. And I like, another thing that I want to say here is, I like how your examples are really, are actually about the other option, because you have decided that you want to go to bed earlier, but you're telling me not exactly why this is good, but you're telling me why this is bad, for your health, and because that you don't arrive at work on time. So that's another strategy. It's kind of the easiest thing to do, because really thinking about examples to just talking about this one would be a bit harder. You could say the opposite, you could say staying up or going to bed earlier makes you lose weight, or going to bed earlier makes you be able to make it on time to work. and you basically could do the same thing about the opposite, you know? So great. All right then. Now regarding the templates. So this is, to be honest, like the simplest template that you would find. And, you know, it's not because of the words. I'm actually gonna be giving you some ideas to change the words. So the thing with templates is you don't really have to follow them, you know, like the words that you're using here. It's a really good thing to practice at the beginning. So you can even take notes here and you can try to use the template at the beginning so that you memorize the structure and how it works. But then again, you know, if you don't feel comfortable with one word, you're more than welcome to change it. You know, it doesn't have to be literally these same words. The thing that you want to keep though is the structure. Okay, so for instance, here, if you're just gonna give one argument and one example, so you need to make sure that you go from bigger to smaller. You start with your position. I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry, I was thinking in loud voice.
Okay, it happens. So you go from bigger to smaller. Basically, you start by giving your position, by stating, you know, what you think, what your answer is. So I definitely believe that going to bed earlier is better. Then you give your argument, since it's good for your health, and then you give your example. To illustrate, doctors say that this is like that, and blah, 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 and so on. So make sure that you keep that structure. Try not to change that, you know, try not to, some people would start with the example, maybe like in a different order. So there was this time when I was waking up, when I was going to bed late and I wasn't able to make it on time to work. So I don't know. So going to bed earlier makes you more likely to wake up early. As a result, I definitely believe that going to bed earlier is better. So there are ways in which you could change the structure, but I really don't recommend you do that, because this is like the traditional structure of every argumentative text or speech or anything, you know? It always goes like this, and this is what they're expecting. And you want to give them what they want, you know, what they expect. So the easier for them to follow your response, the better for you. Okay, so try to keep it that way. In case you have two arguments, then it's the same, but of course you don't start right off with your argument. You say, I definitely believe that going to bed earlier is better. First, it's good for your health. A good example of this is, I don't know, what doctors say. They are usually saying that staying up late makes you gain weight. And then you say, in addition, it also makes you wake up earlier. For instance, there was this time when I was staying up late every single night, and I was constantly going or arriving at work late, and I got fired. I don't know. So, but the thing is that I'm keeping the structure, you know, I'm using the transitions, which you can change. You can say to start instead of first, or you could say to begin with, or first of all, or firstly, or for example, or to illustrate. You can change that for sure. But what I want you guys to keep is the structure. And finally, yes, Danny?
Um, can we use words like gonna, gotta, or contractions like cause instead of because? Or is that not good?
Yes. Yeah. Of course. And yeah, good question. So yes, you can for sure use contractions like don't, doesn't, or gonna, or wanna, or gotta, everything you want really. And that's what I meant when I said, you know, the the speaking section, it's okay if it's not 100% formal, you know? In the writing, then of course, you better not use those contractions or things like that, or slang words maybe. But here you can for sure use them, and it's even gonna make you sound more natural. So yeah, it's perfectly fine if you use those. But again, you want to use the transition. So it's kind of a mix of both, you know, because you use transitions that are a bit formal and academic, but you can also use like common words and contractions and slang words or whatever. So yes, yeah, for sure. Any other question?
I have a question. It is okay if in all of the audios I use like the same words like first or a good example, or it's better if I try to change those words from on every audio?
What do you mean on every audio? Like in every task for the speaking section?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Okay,
like in every
so
question.
yeah. No, you have to use different words, yes. So what I recommend you guys do is create your own templates. You know, based on this, you can take some words from here, or I'm gonna give you some good other choices, you know, or options that you could use, and try to create your own one for each task. However, you know, each one is different. You're gonna see that, for instance, task 2, it has a complete different template because the task itself is completely different. You know, it's about the student, it's about the university, the professor. So this one is a bit more complex. You know, in this case, you can use different transitions, but you also need some other things in there. So it's gonna be different. And yes, try not to use the same transitions because they're gonna know that you're using like a very specific template. So create your own template for each one as you go, and yeah, try to make it a bit different. Okay. And finally, if you have some extra time, as I was saying, you know, if you speak for 35 or 40 seconds and you got like 5 or 10 left, then you can give a short conclusion, which is never necessary. You know, you don't have to have a conclusion, but if you have some time, then why not, you know, to fill up that time. So you could say something short like, that's why I think so. Or if you have like 10 seconds and you really don't know what to say, you could say something like, so that's, or as a result, that's why I believe that going to bed earlier makes your life better, makes you happier, whatever. So depends, you know, on how much time you have. What else? Okay. So, all right, I want like 3 people to do it, to try it. So who wants to try?
I want to try.
Okay, great, Melissa. So I am gonna be measuring your time, but I think you already have, you know, have an idea how this is. So let me please put the timer on. Okay, so here you go. Go now.
What is going to be the? I'm sorry. What is going to be the topic, or it's it's the same?
The same one.
Oh, okay.
It's okay, the same one.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead.
I believe that it is better to going to bed early due to the fact that you can wake up earlier. To illustrate it better, when I was in school, I remember that I wake up so late, so I always arrive too late to the school, and also I forget all my things and don't have all the things organized for my subjects. So I prefer to wake up earlier to have everything all right.
Okay, perfect. What do you think? Okay, do you think something is missing? Was it okay? What do you guys think? So I actually think, you know, it was really good. It had everything. You already know, you know, how to do it. You got a good argument. You were following the structure. You were using transitions. Nothing to say really. I noticed some grammar mistakes though, especially with the tenses. You know, that's what I meant. So for instance, you were saying, I forget my things, and you were talking about when you were back in school. So it should have been in the past, you know? So that's why it's always better to pick it simple. Try to say, right now I am in, no matter where you are, like you could even say I'm in school and tell me that in the present. So I always forget my things. I don't have time to do that, and it's gonna be easier.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, actually, there's another thing as well, but I don't know if I should say this. So when you're telling me stories that are in the past, you have another option as well. You could use the simple present for the stories. You could say, for instance, so I'm in school and I don't know, I'm staying up late and I'm always late for class and I don't have time to prepare my things. So you're kind of enlisting things and you're using the simple present and it could be a past story. I don't know. Maybe you're gonna get confused with that. So I try to keep it in the present, but you're gonna see that for other tasks, like in task 4, for instance, you're gonna listen to a professor provide a lecture, and in that case, you're not gonna have other choice but to summarize the same story that the professor tells. So in that case, that's gonna help. But right now, I don't know. Let's forget about that. But great, Melissa. Thank you so much. Okay, and who else? Who else wants to give it a shot? Maybe one more before I give you some other tips and other things I want to say.
Can I try?
Of course. You go there. Go ahead.
Okay. I definitely believe that get up, go to bed earlier is better because next morning the time is more approachable. And for instance, doctor says that getting up earlier is better for your skin because it gets less older in the following years. So I really recommend that everybody should go bed earlier. I don't know. Sorry.
Hey, perfect. Really liked it. So yes, you got everything you were using in transitions. No comments. You even had time to give a conclusions. Perfect. And you guys were focusing in just one argument, So I think that really works. At least it worked for me. I think it might work for you to just focus on one thing, because as I was saying, 45 seconds is not that much. Okay, guys. So the things I wanted to say regarding grammar, there are some things that I've been seeing all over again, like common things among people when they're in this task specifically. So make sure to review some grammar as well, but not just any grammar. If I just say review grammar, then, there's so many things, So here are some common mistakes that I found people do or tend to do. So the first one is comparatives and superlatives. So you're gonna need this like a lot. Everything that you're saying is really with comparatives, because you're saying, I think that this is better, I think that this is easier, this is healthier. So review some comparatives, also superlatives as well, just in case. Make sure that you don't make those mistakes, like for instance saying this is more easy or this is more healthy, So make sure to review some comparatives that could help gerunds. So right now I noticed 2 gerunds mistakes, in the 2 of your responses. So for instance, if you say it is better to going to bed early, that is a misplaced gerund. It should be it is better to go to bed early, right? Or it's better going to bed early. So basically gerunds are those verbs that you want to use as a noun, like going to bed early is better instead of go to bed early. Or, and that's something that you're for sure going to use as well. So make sure that you practice this, that you review a bit of grammar. The indefinite article, which is, the. So that's as well something that I've seen, not only here, but also in the writing. So for instance, if I say that people who prefer to go to bed earlier have better skin, so that they at the beginning is out of place. It shouldn't be there, because that is used for like specific things, not general things. So I don't really have that much time to explain to you like the details, and it shouldn't be convenient because maybe some of you guys already know this, but yes, you can do that on your own, you know? Also, some irregular plurals that are really confusing, I know, like person versus people or child versus children, you know? So those are things that we tend to struggle with. Conditionals that you are gonna use, like if you do that, then you should do that. Not only the first conditional, but also the three conditionals that we have. So, and what else? Like third person in general, I've seen some mistakes there. Like, I don't know, you know, doctors says or says. So careful with those things, you know, they make it get you mixed up. And as an extra thing, something that you guys can do here to show variety, because believe me, I think that like I don't know, especially this task is all about variety. So if you can do some changes in the way that you're structuring your sentences, for instance, if instead of saying, I prefer to go to bed earlier because it's better for my health. So instead of saying that, you could say, since it's better for my health, I prefer to go to bed earlier, right? So to make it different, I mean. Or you could also use different structures like, not only is this better for my health, but it also makes me happier, you know? So not only is this better, I'm making an inversion there. So those are just some extra things. This is not really like grammar itself, but just saying. And some words that we tend to use a lot in this task is like, because I think, so those words, because, which you're gonna have to use, you know, but it's better. So someone was asking me, right? Is it okay if I say, for instance, cause instead of because? So it's okay, you know? But in general, I wouldn't want to use so much because. And because it's a, you know, I'm just using because it's a common word that we use it a lot. And if you use one of it, it's perfect. But if you're using like 10 becauses in your response, then it's gonna make them believe that you don't have other words for it. So you want to show vocabulary, remember, so you can say something like since or as or for, or due to the fact that, or considering, or given that. So it's gonna give you variety. It's not necessarily because it needs to be formal, but because it's gonna show that you have an extensive vocabulary. And for the I think that you're gonna be saying a lot, here are some useful phrasers that you may wanna take a look at. Like when it comes to choosing between this and that, then I would go for that. Or instead of saying, I think, the way I see it is better for your health. In my opinion, personally, to be honest, to be 100% honest, if you want to emphasize it, if I were to choose between this and that, I would go for this. So look at this structure here. If I were to choose, or if I had to choose, if you ask me, I'd say this, or to me, to my mind, as far as I'm concerned, waking up earlier is better. Here are some other verbs instead of saying I think. And if you want to be a bit casual, then here's a good phrase. You could say something like, to me, I don't know, to me, going to bed earlier is a no-brainer. You know, it's like an expression that you could use. So I know I'm going through this very quickly, but I think I'll send you the presentation so that you can, you know, have a look at it on your own. So yeah, the good thing is that we have one more class just for this task. I don't know why, but the course is structured like that. So we're gonna be looking at the same task next class as well, and you're gonna practice this tomorrow. So we're probably gonna be practicing. So you guys are all gonna get the chance to maybe to receive some feedback, or I don't know. So, all right, now that we're here, any questions now, or any comments or anything to say?
Yes. I'd like to know if you can share the slides with us, please.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
In the TOEFL test, it will be possible to use some notes to order or to put in order our ideas.
You mean like taking notes?
Yes.
Yeah. You actually have to take notes. Well, you don't have to, but yeah. No matter if you're taking like the home edition one or that you're taking it in a test center, if you're taking it in a test center, then you don't have to take your own pieces of paper with you. I think you go there and you ask, the proctor, can I have a piece of paper or something, and they give it to you. But if you're taking the home edition one, then you need a whiteboard and a marker, or you could. The best option, I think, is one of those transparency sheets. I don't know if you've heard about them, but you basically put a piece of paper inside of one of those transparency sheets, and you can use an erasable marker to take notes. So yeah, you can take notes. What you cannot do is bring your templates with you. So you cannot do that. You don't have like the piece of papers that you're going to be bringing are supposed to be in blank. So you have to actually memorize this. That's why you need to practice. So what you can do is, like, before you begin the test, you can take notes on the template, like write down the whole template even, but in the exam, before you take the test, you cannot bring it with you to the test. So, but it's always better if you memorize the structure, know that you need to use a transition here and there. And yeah, so just practice. And yeah. Did I answer your question? Was that what you were asking?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So, any other question? Okay, guys, then. So please, before you leave, I just started today's survey or today's poll. For those of you who are new here, or basically every class we do this survey at the end of the class, and it's just 3 questions about the class and about me. And so yeah, I would appreciate it if you guys could answer those. Okay. All right then. So now I got it with me. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you on Thursday. Have a nice evening.
Bye,
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Bye. Bye. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.